welcome to another episode of Off the Fence. We have a special guest. In fact, I was just thinking about this, Brian. We've basically known each other now for almost 14 years.
Yes.
That's like a long time.
Yeah,
That
pretty
is.
much.
Yeah.
But before we get into it, a special edition of the food stuff, we've got Pop-Tarts in front of us. One is name brand, the other is not. Our goal, not for this entire episode, but for the moment.
We have more, though, if we do want to just snack
Our goal
on them.
is which one tastes better before you know who made it, okay? So I'll let you two start.
Are
Go
we
ahead.
eating with our eyes first? Are we like...
You can do whatever you want.
Is that...
Yeah,
do you want
because
that
that's
to
a
be
dead
part of it?
giveaway.
Yeah,
It is a dead
well,
giveaway.
Frosting.
Well, okay. Make your assessments.
This is interesting, though, because look, the coverage is very inconsistent because mine is fully interesting.
This is probably the other side of that one.
Okay.
It might
We'll
be.
see.
Yeah.
It's like
moving the
did
microphone
a machine for sure covered that. Like it was for sure was
Probably a grandma in our kitchen.
some industrial factory. Does eating Pop-Tarts bring up memories?
Yes.
I think it would.
Especially like this untoasted.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Oh,
grab and go, like on your bike while you're riding to middle school.
When I'm catching the bus, we had the bus come to our house.
It's kind of funny. And the thought was,
Catching the
I can't miss breakfast. That's unhealthy. So I'm going to get a Pop-Tart so that
let's
I'm
just get a
healthy.
pound of sugar.
I think we went through the era where as long as you eat something that's healthy, when it's like, no, that's not.
Well, yeah, because we were in the Kool-Aid era.
Yeah,
where I throw
right.
4 cups of sugar into anything, and it's great.
Yeah. So
There's fruit in it.
have you guys eaten both? Or
No.
You don't have to eat the whole thing.
I'm really trying to.
You're
a
trying.
palate
Yeah,
cleanser.
you need a palate cleanser. Let me know some initial.
Go get me an iced coffee. That'll clean.
Yeah, you just want an iced coffee. That's all you want. Do you guys have any initial? What's it? You had
Stop
some-
asking me to hurry. That's
Oh,
my
I'm
initial
not
thought.
trying to tell you to hurry. I just know that everyone, just make sure your lips smacking in the microphone. So this is ASMR and weird.
I
Actually,
don't like
do
that. I don't know why. That makes me uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, no.
I always like that movie, What About Bob? Where he's just like, Dr. Leo Marvin.
No,
Okay.
I think that
You guys, I'm gonna eat. You guys start giving feedback.
Okay. So one of them, the pastry part of it is much more flakier than the other one is more compact, maybe, I guess is the best way
which
to
do you
explain
prefer?
it. I think the compact one. Maybe it's just because of history, because I think I know what it is, and the flaky one, what it is.
I think so too.
So going back to my roots.
So my mom would buy my dad's an accountant, and I feel like they were really diligent about what they spent money on, but there were certain things that my mom refused to buy the off-brand on. And so I can tell you that this is the Pop-Tart brand, the flaky one. And I love it, but it's because like that was one of the very few things, that and probably laundry detergent and ketchup. We never bought the off-brand on. And this is on brand. This
All right,
is
so-
Pop-Tart.
so-
flaky is my favorite. The fruit is even better.
You can look if you want, but this,
I'm gonna eat the whole thing.
the more fully covered one is generic,
Yes, absolutely.
and the bit more slathered on like. It depends what you like with a Pop-Tart. Are you an icing person or a filling person or a pastry person? Right?
The filling, I like the Pop-Tart filling better.
You like the filling, so you're a filling person.
But no, but I am a flaky. I'm a flaky person. No,
Brian,
I'm a
what-
pastry person.
Do you prefer one or the other? Like when you're eyeing a Pop-Tart, what are you going after?
I'm going after the generic. I like the icing, and they
Okay.
over ice that one.
Okay.
And sprinkles. Oh, there's so many
Okay.
sprinkles. It's beautiful.
And this keeps in trend. I also prefer the generic one. We joke now that Katie likes what no one else really kind of
I'm
goes
my
for.
own. Yeah.
But the generic one. I think one is done better. It's done better. Like there's more icing, which I'm like, thank you. You didn't
Well,
cheat
that's
me.
if you like efficiency though,
Right.
And so that's efficient.
The other one, I was like, did you miss the edges?
Right.
What was it? Was it too tough to
No,
get
they're
the-
making it just for
Yeah,
me because
whatever.
I love
Okay.
that about it.
So we're off the fence, but it's 2-1.
I still win
Which
though.
is still right. You win all the time,
Always.
babe. That's
do.
all the time.
I do.
But we're
I'm
off the
just kidding.
fence. I would say the generic, if you're in the grocery store and you get generic Pop-Tarts, you're not robbing yourself. I think what we can say. You are not. I don't know the price difference, but you're not robbing yourself. Okay. All right. There you go. We're off the fence.
Ta-da!
Generic. Now we're off the fence on Pop-Tarts, and I guess I do want to log this one in the books that I've not eaten all the food. I've just taken nibbles of mostly each week, but Pop-Tart is something I just proved to myself. It's one I chose not to resist. I ate.
Can't let it go.
Did you eat both? Like
Oh, yeah.
both brands? Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
All right. So, Brian, for those who don't know you, would you give us a bit of a bio, just like who are you and what's life like for you, and who do you live with, and what do you do for a living, all that kind of stuff?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, my name is Brian Freoff. I live in Rapid City with my wife, and I have a 14-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
So spectrum there. That's
Yeah.
a whole nother talk about that. Otherwise, I've been in law enforcement for 17 years. I worked with the sheriff's office for 14 years. And the last couple of years, I've been with the South Dakota Division of Criminal Investigations.
Mm-hmm.
Through that time, I've done about everything you can think of law enforcement-wise, but within the last 7-8 years, I've landed in the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. So I work crimes that occur on the internet, proactively, reactively, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my main area. That's where I've been led to, and I feel we really make a difference working that stuff, as well as with the church. Like I moved here about a year before I started with law enforcement, so I've been in Fountain Springs for like 18 years.
Wow.
I was here when it was like ready to close,
Yep.
and we thought, wow, this the community, this is awesome, and we've been through 3 pastors now, but
Yeah.
the third one's stuck.
Yeah.
So
You got lost, and so you just.
it's about me in a nutshell. So to start with.
You're. I remember some of my memories with you regarding law enforcement. Which, by the way, if you're, for those who want a topic introduction, Brian is very involved in what's going on the internet, and I get asked enough, and I think parents are wondering, and even individuals, not even just parents, but it does end up a lot being a parental kind of conversation about the internet, what's safe, what's not, and all that. So we're going to talk about the world of the World Wide Web and beyond all that. But I remember, I don't know if you remember this, doing a ride along with you, and I think we did multiple ones. Actually, I think I can remember at least 2. There may have been a third one, but I remember the first one I did. I'd never done a ride along, and you and I show up to. There was we were at a gas station. Mm-hmm. And there was a report of a break-in in some vehicles, and so I don't know what's going on. I'm riding along, and anyways, ends up this whole process of I got to see lots of stuff that night and events and all that. But then there was other nights that I remember riding along, and we're like, the memory was where we ate, and it was like good conversation, good food, not a lot of busting the criminals, but. What I've always admired about you is your approach to all of that has been so healthy. At least as I've been around and talking with you and being around you, that I'm like, man, if the people out there in law enforcement in this world are like Brian, it's cool. So, but let's talk internet stuff.
Sure.
I don't even want to lead you too much on the first part. Like, what's some of the good, the bad, and the ugly going on the internet, and how it's affecting us?
Yeah, there's everything out there for all ages that's affecting us in good and bad ways,
Okay.
I guess. So the main thing is, I guess, just with the teens and knowing what they're doing at a time. When do you give your kid a phone? When should they start using a phone? What apps do you let them use? What don't you let them use? You know, a lot of these questions are already answered by the applications or what's out there. But the biggest thing I'm going to keep coming back to is having that conversation with your kids even when they're younger.
Okay.
Yes.
We've talked about it multiple times in church throughout, is just if you're willing to have uncomfortable conversations with your kids when they're little, then they'll be willing to come have an uncomfortable conversation with you when they get older.
It's good wisdom.
So that, like with my 14-year-old, I'll talk about him quite a bit, and we've done that since day one. We've just been open and honest with him, and to be open and honest with the audience, you know, I see a lot of Christian families that maybe aren't. Maybe they think if I completely keep my kid away from everything in the world, they won't get hurt. And they hide them and keep them to the side, and then a kid will run into a situation and they won't know how to handle it.
They don't have the tools. Yeah.
In law enforcement, other trainings, I'm sure you go through in other fields, you put yourself in a situation in a training environment so you know how you're going to react in the real world.
Okay.
So we use what's called force-on-force training, where simunition guns, things like that, it's going to hurt when you get shot, but you're going into clearing a building or something. Bad guy pops out, and then you train that and you practice that, so when it happens in real life, you're able to react to it and you don't have to think about it.
Okay.
Same thing with kids. The Child Advocacy Center in town, they have these cards called What If cards, which are super awesome because it goes everything from you find a backpack on the playground, what are you going to do? To someone who cares about you touched you inappropriately, what are you going to do? So that's just training your kids and having that conversation ahead of time on how you're going to react in the situation before you're there. Because we all know, we've all grown up, so through middle school, high school, peer pressure, all that jazz, like if you're in the situation and all the other kids are looking at you, like, I guess I'm going to do what everybody else says, unless you have a planned escape or a planned how you're going to handle it before you get into that situation. So like you said, Katie, no tools. You go into it with no tools. What are you supposed to do? You know?
So let's talk a little bit then about naivety, because I think you might think as a parent or really like if you're influencing any kid at all, you might think like, well, everyone's got phones, everyone's got this, so it must not be that bad out there. That you almost this concept of, I bet there's a big enough fence somewhere that keeps you from the super bad. So let's talk about, I'm not intending to be like all doom and gloom, but I do think we need to let's go to the dark place for a little bit and talk about what's bad out there that parents or others may just not be aware of or be avoiding and thinking it's not true.
Sure. So the biggest thing, and I do this in my parent presentations when I do those, that the dads out there will remember this, and I'm going to be blunt about it. When we grew up, when we were young, we ran into the JCPenney's magazine. With the lingerie and things like that that we saw. Now with one or two clicks, kids start at hardcore violent pornography on their phone. Anyway, this is where they start. That's where we started back in the day, what we saw first. This is where they start. So where do you go from there? So that's just something to be aware of that's out there. That as soon as you give your kids their phone or access to the internet that's, without any type of restriction, that's what they can access instantly.
And even if they're not trying, if they watch a video on YouTube and then something else, it just,
I'm
flies at them.
Still, so I'm 44 and I'm still shocked. So Katie and I's relationship functions where if I come across something completely inadvertently, whatever, I say, look, this just was, I just want you to see that I'm not, this is just showed up on my phone, Instagram. The other day I got, and I don't even know how it works, I kind of want to talk to you about it. I got a text and I was like, how did I get this text?
From a number you didn't recognize.
No, it wasn't. And I was like, here, Katie, and I'm shocked. And what it does to me going, so I know what to do. I go to my bride and say, sweetie, this just came across my phone. I want to be held accountable. I did not pursue this, but I'm like, well, what's an 8-year-old boy do if they got a phone, or a 12-year-old boy or girl?
They have so many, chemicals running through their head. Your brain's not developed till you're 26 or 20, somewhere in there. So you got brain development. You're learning what arouses you, and then you're getting these visual stimulations, all this stuff that that just is in front of you. How do you navigate that? And I'll come back again to, it's all about the conversations that we as parents have with our kids. I heard one time in youth group, I also help with the youth group at church. We talked about, it used to be 5 kids for every 1 adult to mentor a kid or mentor kids, but that's switched to there needs to be 5 adults to every kid.
Wow.
And that has made so much sense seeing my son grow in the adults in his life and stuff like that. We have at least that many strong Christian men speaking into his life, and you see it. You just see it from him. So it would come back to that, to where as soon as the kid sees that, they know just like you go to your bride, I need to go to mom and dad and show them this and tell them like, hey, this, I didn't mean to go here, but that conversation needs to be set up before you're in the middle of it.
Yes.
So what are environments that you would say, I imagine there's some common places or stuff that would say is socially acceptable that you would say, no, that's not, there's danger in those environments. I've actually asked you multiple times, at least via text, hey, my son or one of my kids wants one of these games. What are the dangers in and through? I don't know. I'm unfamiliar with even the name of the game. Talk to me about it. Can we talk about some of that? Like whether it be games or places that they're going to that you're like, hey, there's some dangers there.
Sure. We'll get over the Snapchat hump.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Get rid of it. I'm sorry. It's fun. Especially if you have it in your family, you can do filters, you can do all this stuff. But what ends up happening is these kids add all their friends, and even the good kids are getting stuff that they don't want because they think it magically disappears after the fact, after they view it. They can send anything they want. They can hide behind it. They can hide their identity because they're trying to be someone that they're not.
Wow.
And they think it's just gone after it posts. Snapchat has changed the way they do a lot of their data retention and things like that, where through legal process, we get more of that info now, whether it's just the conversation that they had with somebody or the actual images that are sent back and forth. Plus,
well, so let me stop for a second. I think some people might think if I deleted it or if they told me it was deleted, that it's deleted, yet it is not.
It is not, no.
Okay.
Especially if it's been viewed. There you
go.
That's a whole nother podcast of thumb cache and cell phone forensics and how hard drives save things. And it's still there. And or the other person can screenshot it. Well, I know I get a notification. Yeah, you can, but there's also, there's snap capture. There's other apps that are out there that can log and take stuff off of your phone while you're using it with somebody. The other thing about it, there's this thing called gamification, which a lot of these social media apps, like your Snapchat, has built in. You have streaks. So you get points for how many days in a row, or how many hours in a row you talk to this person, you see their snaps, their snaps. So it keeps you coming back. And I'm sure you guys have all heard the term digital heroin.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like digital, yes.
So it builds you get a dopamine dump.
Yes.
Like when you look at it and you have a kid who's in brain developmental stage and they're getting this dump all the time, and then when they don't have it, there's your anxiety.
Yes.
Their suicide rates are through the roof.
Yes.
It's a good business model to get people coming back to your platform.
Yeah.
But it's messing with kids.
I saw that with Facebook that they'll go like, hey, you've got these messages, or hey, so-and-so said something, don't miss it. And it like brings us right to that fear of missing out, like place in our brains where we're like, oh, I got to go look at it, when maybe we'd even had some good boundaries set up, but I don't want to miss that. So then you jump right back in.
Absolutely.
They're being very strategic.
Yep, absolutely. Another thing that a lot of especially Facebook and other social media platforms have built in is, if you read their end user agreement, which nobody does,
right?
Most of these you have to be 13 or older to have an account. Because they have taken steps where between the age of 13 and 18, you can't be searched by adults. They try to protect the kids. They've built this into their platforms. Well, kids get on, you give a kid a Facebook account before they're 13, they lie about their age, they age out sooner, they can be found.
Gotcha.
We had just the other day, we were setting up, because we do proactive work as well. We pretend like we're kids online.
Okay.
We set up one of my guys set up an undercover account the other day, and within hours we had a guy ready to meet, wanted to have sexual relations with him here in Rapid City.
Wow.
And he wasn't even like actively searching. He just posted the account that he was a middle school kid and they wanted him to skip school and everything. So,
wow.
So with that, it's out there. That's the other naive part of it. Like, well, it doesn't happen in Rapid City. Yes, it happens in Rapid City. It is through my years of law enforcement. It's one thing that I think this crime is consistent everywhere.
Okay.
Where some places you'll see one crime higher than the other, but just because of the access and the internet, we'll go out in the middle of nowhere, South Dakota, where someone's doing something they shouldn't. Like, it is consistent across the board. It's always happening. but that doesn't mean to stay at home and be scared and
Right,
and
right.
hide in your closet. Like there's ways to navigate that.
So let's talk
Yeah.
about those. Let's talk about
Yeah.
ways to navigate this, because I really don't. My intention with this isn't just that we scare people
Right.
into like, oh no, because I think if you're scared, you overreact typically. So let's
Yeah.
not overreact. Let's talk about being proactive. Let's talk about what we should be doing.
Sure. So back to the conversation. Have the conversation about everything beforehand. That even got into games with my son. Like they, if you don't know, people can chat on video games, or people can talk to you on video games. And he flat just would come to me and like, yeah, I quit playing that. Someone tried to talk to me, so I just stopped. I'm like, that's cool. At least you came to me and told me that.
Yes.
Otherwise, one of the best resources I know out there is this site by Josh Oakes is his name, and it's smartsocial.com.
Okay, smartsocial.com.
.com, and he does little 5-minute clips on every app that you can think about. And he rates them like a green, yellow, red.
Okay.
So like green, yeah, they can go. They can, you don't have to watch them that much using that app. Yellow, maybe some parental guidance. Red, don't ever touch these type of apps.
Okay.
So he also has a paid side of his site that you can sign up and do a whole social university, I guess, where it works with the parent and the kid together to facilitate these conversations.
Wow.
Because the world of saying, well, that technology is just so beyond me. No, that's not okay.
Yeah.
That's not okay. You're I'll bring this up at the end as well too, but your kids are going to be making decisions that can follow them the rest of their life.
Yeah.
With that phone or with anything on the internet. And they're not going to wrap their heads around that.
Well, and potentially even like when we talk spiritually, some strongholds too that they're inviting into their that can impact generations that maybe a parent doesn't even know that is happening, or the kid doesn't even realize what they're jumping into. So there's the practical, like you have a history online, but also then just the spiritual ramifications of letting those types of things in.
Right.
Oof.
So that smartsocial.com is awesome for resources for that.
We do that even just to add to that. We've been doing that for movies.
Yeah.
Like anytime my kids will come to me and say, hey, Dad, can we go watch such and such? I'll be like, well, tell me what pluggedin.com says. And they'll go online. It's a site that tells you, it does actually a similar grading, green, yellow, and red, and talks about, well, for a teenager, maybe, or kid, no. So we've been using that as a measurement tool going, we'll trust this information to say if we should go to that movie or not.
And then Katie will watch the end and be like, you guys don't need to watch it.
She just Googles
I
the
literally,
end.
that's all I do. In fact, though, I got to tell you, lately, I don't go to the theaters or anything. I just watch the same movies over and over because I just need some steady.
Yeah.
I need to know what's happening. Life is more helpful for me that way.
So smartsocial.com, good.
So
Pluggedin.com too. But.
There's so many apps out there. You're never going to learn it all.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's okay.
Right.
But whatever your kids have, you should have.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So you know how the platform works. Snapchat. How many parents know about My Eyes Only? There's a whole separate side of Snapchat, another passcode you have to put in for this area called My Eyes Only within Snapchat.
Just the name of it sounds bad.
So we don't have Snapchat. So our kids don't have Snapchat. Like that's just kind of, And I think that we also, one of the things that we did was we have like a shared family account and on Apple. And so like Ellie has to ask us before she can add it. And most of hers are for photography and stuff, but we have to approve it and sign in to do it. And that's been really helpful too. Cause then we literally have like a log of.
Yeah. Do you guys use all the stuff Apple built in on screen time?
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yep. But we also we're like even hardcore about it. Our kids are given a certain amount of time a day and they have to log.
They have to sign in.
I use this phone or I use this iPad or I use this TV and here's how long.
Yeah. And that I know Android probably has the same thing set up, but with your kids' devices, I know Apple has screen time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which within screen time, you can limit websites. You can limit when some apps turn off, that they just don't have access to the apps. You can limit whether they can get apps or not. They have to, like you said, it pops up on your phone, ask permission to get the app, So they've taken some steps that are good, just like entry level, working with your kids. And now, make that as part of the conversation.
Yes.
Okay? I'm not doing this because I don't trust you. We're doing this on your phone because we just want to make sure that this isn't bugging you at this time of night, that you know, we can see what websites and stuff you go to. You know, it's just I don't know, work that out with your kids that you guys are on the same page with it, and don't use it as a punishment. Like, I'm going to track you on your phone and watch you.
Right.
Which goes back to the conversations, though, having those consistent conversations to let them know Hayden didn't get Instagram until he was 18, and Facebook has just been a no-no. But we kind of processed that with them the whole time, saying it's not because we don't trust you, but your brain is not fully formed, and we want to honor you and protect you and help you set some rhythms too in the way that you.
I've always talked to him about it. It's like a pet. So like Ellie's got guinea pigs, but the guinea pigs have a cage. The fish have a fish bowl.
Yeah.
The dog has a leash. It's like, and they understand that, like, it makes sense. It's like, so let's do that with a lot of things in our lives that like they just need boundaries. They just, it's not that by itself it's all evil and it's Satan right there, but with boundaries and walls and things, it's how we keep safe. It's how we make things thrive.
We're so grateful for that guinea pig cage, by the way.
Yeah. The other thing that builds is just the knowing that I need accountability when I get older. I had accountability when I was a kid. Now I need it. Like, that's something that I'm learning. I didn't have accountability growing up. So it's just like, wow, like it's a big deal. Like, having someone there, not looking, it's hard to explain, not looking over your shoulder and watching your every move, but just like keeping you honest and accountable with everything you do. Another side of that with phones, just phones in general, and just the way kids are nowadays. There's a rule in our house that for the kids' phones have to be a neutral area to charge. Okay. Out of their bedrooms.
Yep.
Don't ever let the phones in the bedrooms. And that just goes back to after 9 o'clock at night, who used to answer the phone at your parents' house? Mom or dad. You know, they're the ones who had access to the phone when someone would call. Other kids have the phones all night long, so they're getting texts. They're not sleeping. You know,
playing games and
bullying. You know, it used to end at school. Now it follows you because you're just getting text after text after text, things like that. So just phone usage, you know, the Apple stuff was good, but there's other apps like we got, and some of our friends have the Bark app, BARK,
Okay.
and it's a paid app. There's tons of paid apps out there that you can use with your kids, but that one's so cool because you can filter the content. So even within their text messages, if there's a message about suicide, a message about sex, anything like that, as the parents, you'll get a notification.
Wow.
And this recently worked out because there was some of our friends that they found out that, hey, your buddy's saying stuff about ending it and suicide and stuff, and they were able to intervene before it got any further, you know? So
Bark.
it's just Bark.
Or just Bark, okay.
Yeah, there's an app you put on your phone, and then the kid's partner app or whatever you want to call it goes on the kid's phone. And then you can, you know, monitor everything that they do. So,
you know, I actually can even think too, you're talking about always circling back to the conversations you're having with your kids, that like what we've talked about with our kids is sometimes they feel a pressure that they have to be a therapist or an interventionalist. However, it's a load that I don't remember carrying as a teenager.
Yeah.
So you can bless your kids by going, I'd like to help you if you do have a friend that is saying stuff that you're like, wow, that's a lot to carry, and you don't know what to say to them or how to support them. You're saying, I want to walk with you on this. I had never thought about that.
I think too, though, in addition to the text and keeping up and having the bullying come home, I think one of the things that I've noticed, because I'm really 100 years old in a 40-year-old body, and so like Snapchat, I literally downloaded it and within 30 seconds deleted it because I was like, too much. TikTok's the same way. For me, it was just more of I don't get it. And so kids don't have it. We don't have it. Like, it's just too much. But I think the other thing is putting content out. I think there's a pressure too that starts where these kids have all of these heavy things to carry, school, interpersonal connections and all of that just in person. But then there's this, I got to keep up with everybody so I get the likes and the views and all of that. It's just a component that we had camcorders. My family didn't even own one. And so but there's a whole second element that then I think makes it easier for them to be preyed on, because if they do get attention and it's coming at them and they're like, oh, well, this is nice. And it says they're a 14-year-old kid.
Right.
So, but all of that compounds to make them even more accessible, I would say, to people that don't have good intentions.
Absolutely. And then even I did another podcast just on victimology and like how I set up my undercover profiles type of thing.
Wow.
And one is the kid that has both parents, gets good grades, all that kind of stuff, because they're always seeking that. They never get the confirmation from their parents that they're good enough. So you have one person that just shows attention towards them, and then it just changes. And then they start in the grooming process, and it just goes from there. It's a real thing. You know, it's not just the kids that are home alone because parents are not present because they're working late shifts or a single parent mom or dad. It's not always that.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's a misnomer because we think, well, but it's safe. And again, talking to our kids, we don't want to scare them, but we want them to be informed that not everybody is a good person. and not everybody that says they're 14 on the internet is 14, so just processing that with them so that they're, again, not afraid, but aware, and intentional and having that relationship where you're preemptively providing some support and an open door for them to come talk about it. It's been huge for us.
Yeah.
Huge for us because it's a terrifying world for parents too. But just to be able to talk through it and that plug-in, we have our kids charge their phones on the counter.
Yeah. Keep it out.
And that is a game changer. That's been a game changer, even just for healthy rhythms in life. Yeah. That like it parks at this time and you don't need to look at it again until tomorrow.
Well, because I don't want them even being like a workaholic. Like what do you need to be doing on your phone or device? Like like
I'll buy you an alarm clock.
So, okay. So Bark, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, and that's just we're just scratching the surface. One other one for kids to make good decisions. It's called Circle of Six.
Okay.
So it's for the kids, and then they have 6 adults that they can reach out to in case of a situation, and it's just you can run it through your lock screen type of thing. So what happens with that is they're in a situation and they need an interruption or they need a way out, anything like that. They can just hit one button and it just sends to all 6 people, hey, shoot me a text. I need an interruption. Same thing with a phone call. Hey, I need maybe a girl's getting too close to a guy and she's just like, hey, I need an interruption. Then a phone call. Oh, my mom's calling.
Gotcha.
And then has to take the phone call. And then there's a final one that you can click on that says, hey, I'm in a situation. I need out. Here's my location. And it's just a one click and it'll send the location to all 6 people.
Wow.
And they have a Google map of where they are to pick them up. My old boss, he had that worked out with his kids as they went through high school that if you ever sent that to me, no questions asked, I'm going to show up and I'm going to be the mean dad. Okay. What are you doing here? Why are you here? And then you can play it off as, my dad. And then we'll talk about it later. But empowering them to make that decision to be like, I'm in a bad spot. I need help when otherwise they wouldn't be able to get that kind of help. So.
I love that too, for even if they're just having feelings that might make them make a choice, even if they're alone and they just need somebody to be there. I love that. I didn't even know that existed.
It's good wisdom.
You're like a classroom, Brian. Thank you.
They have other apps too that have like preloaded responses. Like if someone says, send me a nude and it's like, no, but I'll forward this to my dad and see if he'll send you one, or your buddy in prison is going to be named this. Like it's already, so they don't have to think of the response on the spot. The response is already created. So there's all kinds of stuff out there, which is good, but it comes down to, it's not, hey, here's your phone. Good luck.
Right.
We need to talk about this. We need to work through it.
And it's not just, and I'm hearing you say this over and over, but it's not, I trust you. Which is true. I trust you.
Yes.
It's not that simple as I trust you. There's a whole group of people you don't trust.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah. And life, I think it's true too. Even like we have accountability and boundaries as grown adults working through from budget to who we're talking to and what we're doing. And I think that's good to start that process.
Yeah.
As a child anyway. Do you have any when we talk about like phones and brains not being fully formed? Which is wild because most people are out of college. Isn't that wild that we're out of college before our brains are fully formed? It's bonkers to me. But like, what do you see for age? I guess not limits, but just appropriate or best times maybe to do it, or times that might be too early for that kind of responsibility.
I think that's different for every kid.
Sure. Okay.
And you just got to know your kid, I guess.
That's what we've seen so far.
Yeah,
some
it is.
very responsible kids and some kids that are like, nope,
Yep.
they should be nowhere near that.
We have seen that with ours. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's just specific on the age and stuff. One thing I'd like to go back to as well too. Most phones come loaded with FaceTime, or whatever the Android equivalent to that is for the video chat stuff. But that's normally associated with your friends. There's other video chats out there if you want a place to completely stay away from on the web, like Omegle, Chat Roulette, things like that these kids are on all the time, and it's a live video chat, and it says you're speaking to a stranger, and then every so often it'll switch to somebody new, and
The roulette. Wow.
yeah, and that's just I forgot to bring it up earlier, but that's just like make sure your kids are not on that as well, because that's just that we did it in one of my trainings one time and had it in this area, this big hall with this big screen as we were going through learning about it.
Okay.
And about every third or fourth one is some naked guy sitting there.
No way.
And just doesn't care. He's looking for a response. He's looking for other naked people sitting there to talk to, things like that. And the kids think it's fun. It's hilarious, to go talk to somebody new and it just always changing. And they think the screen is protecting me in between here. And it's just another place to completely stay away from any video chats like that.
Anything with the name roulette in it, I'd like to stay away from.
Yes.
Probably wise.
That blows my
For sure.
mind.
Well, here in a minute, I'm going to ask you, hey, like, final parting words. One I'm going to say is we need to have you, like, back. We'll have you back on the podcast. We'll go into all these subjects that you've even mentioned. But before we get to final words, what haven't you said that you wanted to say? Or you can make those a part of final words. But I want not just parents, but even teenagers who might be listening or watching to this, as they're processing what's on my phone, what am I even watching on TV, what am I downloading, what do I have access to, what's the game chat looking like, what do you wish, especially, I'm reading your shirt, Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. I would imagine you've got a list of things going, I wish people would, or I wish this was normal for. What would you say?
Before I do that, there is some positives out there. Kids need social media to get into colleges. They need social media to build their positive digital footprint. So posting what you do good in school on your Instagram, posting what you do in school on, even get a LinkedIn account. Like that's what jobs and colleges are using. So that can be another time or whatever. We can dig more into that. But what I want, especially parents to know, and this will hopefully resonate with them, if you want your kid to learn to drive a car, do you just say, here's the keys and go? No, because they're going to crash or something that's going to change their life forever is going to happen. If you want someone, one of your kids to like, hey, you want to shoot a gun, and you just give them a gun and you don't train them in it at all, you don't do that.
No.
So this idea that technology is over my head, I'm an overwhelmed parent, I have so much going on, which you do, and you do, we have to train our kids in this because we're going to train them in everything else that's going to affect their life for the rest of their life and follow them.
Sure.
Once it's posted, it's always out there. It's on the internet forever. So you need to train your kids in how to use the internet safely, first of all, effectively, second of all, and just, we have to build new social norms on what's what. So.
And I love how you, because I know you well enough, and what you've been saying here is the constant, like, have the conversation before the emergency has arisen. Have conversations, have development times. This, what you and I, we'd call it discipleship times. Have your discipling is what you're doing. Your scripture teaches you're training your child up, because they will not always be that little child. They become an adult. They make their own decisions, and so there's this Our system of belief is we're disciples of Jesus, which means we make other disciples of Jesus. And so we can't leave the internet out of the discipleship process.
Right. Right.
That needs to be scooted over onto the table and say, this is a part now of the discipleship process.
Yes.
Well, any final parting words? Anything that you're just like,
No, that's about it.
okay, got it.
Yeah, we could talk for days.
Well, we will have you back. I promise you that. Thanks for giving us your time. Thanks for, and not just your time, your wisdom.
Thank you for the work that you do too. Because it really is like stuff that day to day, I don't know that people are really conscious of that. There's a lot of good stuff happening, but there's a lot of stuff that could go really bad.
Oh yeah,
if
absolutely.
people weren't there being intentional, taking care of it. So thank you for that good work too.
Our
Really
agenda
rescue.
is literally to get people off the fence, basically doing nothing about this subject.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's hopefully this bumps some people
Yes.
off the fence.
Yep.
on
I
it.
need to take steps to start training my kid. You know.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching and listening. If you have questions, thoughts, if you're like, this has sparked more, you can text us at 605-250-1224. And we would love to help direct you in the right place.
Yeah.
We even maybe see if we can post some of these apps and websites and stuff that Brian's brought up that people can utilize. And I assure you this, Brian will be back on this podcast as we talk more about some of those details and go further in this. But
Maybe with Pop-Tarts.
I'm here for the food.
yeah, me
You
too.
get to pick next time then. You should get to pick.
Thanks for listening so much. We love you.
Thank you. Bye, friends.
Bye, friends.